Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of the Moby Pixel Show. Today I'm speaking with the Willy Wonka of the app development world. It's Marek Bereza of Elf Audio. Most people in the mobile music space will know Marek best as the creator of Koala Sampler. In this conversation, we talk about the before, during, and after of Koala Sampler. We talk about the new sample pack store that just got launched, and he even gives me a therapy session on getting over releasing buggy code. So, without further ado, please enjoy this conversation with Marek. Let's get started. This isn't a formal interview. It's kind of just like, I've seen what you're doing with Koala Sampler, and I think it's awesome. And I personally always enjoy hearing the stories about apps behind the scenes. And I think some of the stuff you're doing with now is with Juice, but I'm curious, it seems like your intro to app dev might have been much different than mine, because I've seen that you worked with Apple for a time. And I even looked on your website and saw you'd done a project with Google. So what was kind of the chronology of working for those companies versus putting out your own apps?
Before I go into that, I just want to say I don't use Juice. I'm like sort of like quite.
What?
I'm not.
I've been
into it.
spreading misinformation because I thought you said you used Juice at one point.
No, no, no. Like I, I've got my own alternative to Juice that I've made, which is like a blessing and a curse, basically. Uh,
Ah,
but yeah, like I just roll my own everything because I like to make work for myself, you know? Like I like to make life difficult. So yeah, yeah, and it's sort of like, yeah, it's good and bad. It means that you don't sort of end up following conventions, which is very important to me. And also you kind of get to understand everything that's going on and like why something goes wrong and all that sort of stuff. So yeah.
well, I guess if you're low level enough, then you get to avoid some of the problems that happen inside of Apple's frameworks. Um,
Mhm.
but sometimes if you do have a problem, maybe that's something they're not going to be fixing. So are you
Mhm.
using like a third party library that is being maintained, or have you forked off from long ago and just living on your own fork?
Yeah, not really. Like to be honest, like the APIs I use are like the ones in the operating systems. Like there's one in so I use Android, and you would not want to touch the Android like native audio API with a barge pole. It's like a disaster. So it is literally it is a complete disaster. So Google themselves have written a wrapper over the top of it. I used that. That's also like a minor disaster, I would say. Like yeah, and Android is like a minefield in general, but like yeah, like I use an API called OpenGL, which is like quite um like deprecated on iOS, and B like yeah, it's about as low level as you can get. There's no like UI. All the UI is basically built on my own layer on top of OpenGL, and like yeah, like all the libraries are like pretty low level. I use like with the FLAC library for loading FLAC files and streaming FLAC files. But yeah, don't use like any audio API stuff. There's like some core audio glue to get my audio in and out of the device. But apart from that, yeah, everything's basically just from like first principles. And like I've learned so much along like when I started Koala, I was like really quite bad at writing audio code. It's got a bit better. I'm still like there's still a lot of things I know that are wrong, and but like essentially like audio programming is mostly just about moving buffers around and like putting them through functions and delaying them. Like it's like yeah, delays and filters basically. So there's not a huge amount going on. It's just the art is in how you arrange it, and like how you can try and work out how to do interesting things, I guess.
Is this Koala's engine? Is it the same engine that you were using on the previous apps as well?
No, like I mean, so I had one other app which I released in like 2009 or 2010 or something like that called Sample Toy, and I made that like not long after graduating, um, and yeah, I made that in something called Open Frameworks, which is like something that kind of sits on top of OpenGL. It's kind of similar to what I've built actually. But the audio stuff, I sort of wrote my own stuff, and I did it in a very, very naive way. But it was like quite a simple app, and I've always like collected bits of like DSP code into like a folder on my computer or whatever. And now it's like a private GitHub repository. Nothing special, and everything's mostly things have been found off the internet because I can't do like what is it, filter transforms and all that sort of stuff. I just use things that are like permissibly licensed or actually, if you go to in Koala and press the about button, you can see all the libraries I use because like you kind of it's not cool if you don't sort of include the license as per the license saying like if it's an MIT license, you've got to put the license in. So I've got them all there, which sort of like shows you a bit of like what's under the hood. But yeah, there's a lot of copy and paste, and now there's a lot of chat GPT.
Okay.
I've learned the hard way to like read through the code, not just to paste it in. But yeah.
Okay, yeah. With ChatGPT, I use ChatGPT and Claude now. I'm kind of going between the two. I like that
Mm.
ChatGPT can give you image results and things like that. You can even feed it like a thumbnail, a YouTube thumbnail, and it'll give you feedback on it, saying like,
Mm.
there's too much negative
Yeah.
space over here, or try and
Mhm.
balance the image. But with that code, it won't necessarily be attributed. So you can go into, and I've done this, you can go into Claude and say, make me a Tetris clone, and it'll make like a one-to-one Tetris clone with one prompt. But
Uh,
they legally can't really be doing that, or at least maybe they can do it
mm,
legally. But if I release that code, I'm going to get a cease and desist. So it is kind of
mm.
interesting with the audio side of things.
Yeah. I mean, I've never used it like that. It's more like, sort this array or like usually it's something stupid to do with like C++, plus plus, where it's like, I don't know, something to do with like sharing objects or, it's not like, I mean, you can try and say like, oh, make, an 808 kick emulator or whatever. It won't sound good. Like,
Right. And it's going to be doing
maybe
something
now, I don't
like
know. But, yeah.
entirely whack. You'll look at it and be like, oh, please don't do that.
I've definitely done like just as an experiment. I like sort of once tried to get it to like make a distortion effect just to have a listen to it, and like it's never. To be honest, I can't really hear a very big difference between like really good and really bad distortions. But like, yeah, it's not really done anything sort of exceptionally interesting, to be honest.
Yeah.
So,
A lot of digital distortions just aren't great, I've found.
mm,
Like compared to going through actual transistors and things like that. Like if you ever use a fuzz pedal, actual fuzz pedal, I've not found a fuzz emulation that sounds like an actual fuzz pedal.
yeah, 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 for sure, for sure. And yeah, I don't know, maybe it would have some insights into that, but yeah, I haven't really got there yet. Like, I still haven't really worked out how to do good distortions yet. And there isn't, in Koala, there isn't really a good distortion, I don't think. There's a nice clipper, and yeah, like it's sort of like 10H distortion. So it's like that function. It's like hyperbolic 10. It's like the
Hmm.
sort of classic. I mean, it's not. It sort of basically does roughly what a diode does or whatever, but it's symmetrical, so it doesn't. You know, it's like I can't remember. Is it like it's got odd harmonics, which is bad or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I've used the tan distortion that's inside of Audio Kit, and it has sort of like a positive and negative clipping point that you can set. But
Mm,
that stuff is through SoundPipe, and all that stuff's open source. So that's another
yeah,
thing worth looking at.
you've got to
Um,
work out. I actually called out the guy who made SoundPipe because there's some like code that was supposed to be GPL code that snuck in there. So it might be like a reverb or something. I don't know. I think it may have been removed now.
yeah, I do think. Yeah, let's just not ask any questions about it.
It's
Uh,
yeah, I like that library. It's interesting. I've definitely had a little look and like seen, there's some of the things in there. I got someone in to help me write some nice distortions, but they kind of use too much CPU, which
oh, okay.
rules it out at the moment. But like yeah, like a neural valve modeling thing or whatever. But it's just like it's a bit yeah. One day I'll shoehorn it into Koala, but
See, I thought you were using Juice, but I think there will still be some good resources from the Juice community in terms of DSP stuff. There's
Mm.
that guy, Jitten might be his last name. I'm definitely missaying
Yeah,
his name.
Jetson Chowdhury. Yeah. He was the guy actually. He was the guy
Okay.
that he worked. He helped me do a bunch of stuff on Koala. Like, unfortunately, like not a lot of it's been rolled in yet, but and it was like a couple of years ago. And he did some really cool stuff. So hopefully we'll get more and more of it in. There's a few things already that he's done, but he's quite a genius. I think like. When I first came across his stuff, I think it was the tape stuff, like tape simulator, which I was like, "Whoa, how are you doing that?" Like, because I was trying to also make a tape simulator based on some like diagrams I'd found in a paper in a kind of a really naive way, like not trying to like do any like clever DSP, but like I saw this curve and I was like, how can I make this curve with like primitive functions or whatever, and just see if I can make it. It didn't really. It looked the curve looked right, but it didn't sound interesting. But yeah, we got talking, and he's a good egg. He's like super bright as well.
Yeah, I've come across a few developers in this space who like are way above my pay grade in terms of understanding DSP. And whenever I've been around those people, I've told them about using AI stuff, and they're a little bit like, eh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
for
I don't know.
DSP,
It's
thing
slowly
like
catching on, but I think it's going to be one of these things where people are going to turn to AI first for coding. Right now,
mm,
yeah, like you said, I mean it I've heard people say it tears through boilerplate code, and I think that's totally true. But then you can also spend 2 days on, throwing prompts at it, and maybe there's just like a single bool somewhere that's on a flipped value, and you're like, ah, why,
mm,
I think the
mm,
problem is that it doesn't have its own built-in reinforcement learning of terms of it doesn't have a conditioned response. Like we can look at the code and see how it's compiled and use it and say, "Oh, that's not working." They just don't have that feedback loop built in. So
mm, mm.
we are the problem really with it at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah, perhaps. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Speaking of distortion, I know that he also made like this build your own distortion app that's
Yeah,
sort of
that was.
modular that you can add a bunch of pieces to. I know he made like a clone.
Yeah.
Got my
Oh, you've got
clone.
one. Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
this one is not a clone, so it is
All right.
specifically not a clone.
Yeah. I thought, like, to be honest, like, I found that whole the clone thing, the clone centaur, it's a great example of like a good marketing technique, which is like make everything a secret, like they sort of like plotted all the parts so you can't see what the parts are and all this sort of stuff. And it's like just like making it. I don't know if they did, I don't know the actual story, but I know like there's a lot of sort of secrecy about how it works and stuff like that, or there was. And like that's a great, even if you don't have a secret, you can make like a really like, I don't know, not so great distortion effect, but then you make it a story about how the guy who invented was this genius and then he disappeared mysteriously, or you know some sort of, he made a famous record or something, and then he vanished off the face of the earth. Like, yeah, it's a good marketing thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. Any kind of story you can have, that's whenever it transcends being a product and it's an extension of sort of.
Mm,
That's what I like about a lot of Matthew's apps of Audio Kit Pro, like him
mhm,
releasing like a Saga Synth thing, is it's got like the whole story of the Sega Genesis and things like
mm,
that, which really
mm,
resonates with me. With the Klon, it was supposedly had these germanium diodes that were that supposedly he had gotten in maybe Russia. See, it's still mystic, but he had a limited number of them, and whenever heard they sounded so good, he bought a bunch of them, and then he gooped the circuit by
yeah.
covering it up so people couldn't reverse engineer it. But eventually, someone bought one. They were already thousands of dollars, and they deep gooped it, and they were able to see like what the circuit looked like. Um, but yeah, that is
Yeah.
really interesting. But at the same time, like Chinese electronics, they've been gooping circuits forever, but theirs are more so that they don't make it like totally apparent that they're ripping off some other, the chips that were used on
Yeah.
like the Game Boy or stuff like that. Oh yeah, so this probably has a gooped circuit. This is like these new
Right.
emulator things that have come out.
Mhm. Mhm, mhm.
So where did what was it like working at Apple? I mean, I've been to WWDC and that's the closest I've been to like seeing behind the curtain.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I only did it for 2 years. Um, Partly because it was I had to move to the US to do it, and like the rest of my life couldn't really move to the US. So like as in my partner and my family. So I decided to go back. And like apart from that, I probably wouldn't have left because it was um yeah, it was amazing. I was in a sort of a kind of like a design team, like a prototyping team. So it wasn't engineering. In fact, like if you tried to do some engineering, it sort of got a bit frowned upon because like when you're prototyping, the lowest fidelity prototype that answers the question that you have is the best one. So if you don't do any programming, if you can make your prototype, you're trying to answer a question about like would it be cool if you could put a Geiger counter in a phone or whatever it is like to make it a keynote presentation that you can control, whilst Johnny Ives is holding it and testing it, and you control it with your QWERTY Bluetooth keyboard behind the scenes. Like that's considered good because you haven't spent hours or days or weeks or whatever trying to actually put a Geiger counter into the phone to only find out that it's a bad idea. You get to the answer quicker. So like that was like a really refreshing thing. Like stop crafting and just find the right answer. And then like if it's not the right thing, then you can move on faster. So you can basically like test out your ideas quickly. And that's so important. And like if you're an engineer, like we love to program and like work out how to solve a problem and like get into the nitty-gritty of things and stuff like that. And it's like if you're trying to make a product, you can get bogged down in that, and then you think like, oh, my thing's really good because I spent so much time making it, like fixing like winning at all these technical challenges. But actually, like those technical challenges don't really matter to the person using it. They just care about the outcomes and the experience and like, like what the actual thing is on the face of it. Nothing to do with what's inside, if that makes sense. So that was really nice. So I was just like, we were kind of like an internal consultancy almost inside Apple, which would like just look at problems that other design teams had. It would be like the industrial design team or the human interaction team or whatever, or the maps team or something like that. And we would like basically just um, take their problem and make some experiments and see, some physical experiments or some screen-based experiments, or we just draw some pictures and like really like explore the problem space. So like what are all the different possible things you can do, and what are those are good and what of them are bad? And like, oh, the good one. Okay, let's keep going in that direction. What are the things in that direction that you can do that are good and bad? And that's yeah, it's a bit of a one way of explaining it. I mean, I did a WWDC talk about it actually. I don't know if it's online anymore. I think it's like 2014 or 15 or something like that. But yeah, there's three of us. We did a talk about prototyping, and it was about an app for rating toast. But yeah, whatever.
Okay. Awesome. I wonder if that was around. No, I would have been at DevDub probably much later than that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I was making apps before then, but I didn't make it out to WWDC until
Mm-hmm.
much later.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was there, I got to meet like an Apple rep, like a developer relations person. It was
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
very different back then. I don't know if it's that way so much anymore or if it's that way for indies at least, but back then it was like you kind of could have this golden contact, and that contact for me has since moved on. Like that, I think they're in like the arcade team or the Apple arcade team or something now.
Yeah, yeah.
But at the time, it was this weird relationship where like if you had a release or an update, you would send them an email, and you may or may not hear something back, but you would check to see if you got featured. It's sort of a
Mm.
weird relationship.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
another thing I found with Apple is it seemed very segmented. Like whenever I went there, it's around the time when Apple TV first came out,
Mm.
and I was asking how to do like a multiplayer game on it, and one person was like, I think you want to go talk to someone on like the Game Center team. And so I talked to them and they're like, no, I think you want to go talk to someone over here, you know? So it seemed
Mhm.
like each part of Apple behind the scenes is kind of working on their corner of the operating system and not paying too much attention to what's happening outside of their field of view.
Yeah, there's definitely there's a lot of that. I mean, we didn't really see a lot of like the sort of engineering stuff, but yeah, there's like definitely lots of different teams sort of like working roughly on the same thing or different ways of doing the same thing. Like I did a project like maybe last year with like the Vision Pro, the Apple Vision Pro, like and just the audio stuff. And I think there's like three different APIs for doing the sound, and there's like three different teams, or maybe it's the same teams. I don't know, but just seems like, hang on, why didn't you just make one? And I mean, they're all slightly different. They all let you do something different, and they're different layers and stuff like that. But yeah, it's kind of wacky that they have that. You know, it's like different competing technologies within the same company.
Right. I think they had like spatial audio. They're also using like scene kit. So there's probably like some scene kit audio thing that they're
Yeah.
using.
And there's like phase as well, like the phase framework, which I think maybe that's the one. One of them's got like the full spatial one that sort of scans. It's quite cool. It scans the room and then it tries to recreate the acoustics of the room. So if you place a sound there, it tries to like model what the reverberation of the sound being in that bit of the room would do. I honestly couldn't hear the sort of nuances of it, but yeah, sounds like a nice idea. I think generally with like VR stuff, like any spatialization of sound, like the best cue is not from your ears, it's from your eyes. You know, if you hear a bleep and you see something bleep over here, like visually, it sounds like it's coming from like it's like so convincing. It doesn't need to be. You don't need to scan your ears to like make yourself believe that it's over there. Much in the same way that you don't need like VR experiences to be photorealistic. They can be, you know, flat cell shading, like because there's enough cues there, even just stereoscopic cues to make you believe you're in a space. You can be in a cartoon space, right? Like it feels some sort of semblance of a space and that it's real. So yeah.
Nice. So when you left Apple, did you go on sort of a app development journey sabbatical, or did you jump right back into sort of the next job opportunity once you moved?
So that's the only job I really had, to be honest. Like before, I was always freelancing, and I was doing like mostly like programming real-time visuals or programming sort of animatronic things. And yeah, like I made, with the exception of that one app that I made in like 2009 or 2010. Um, basically when I came back from the US, I sort of when I went to the US, I decided I wasn't going to do any more freelancing. Like I was mostly working for ad agencies because they pay quite nicely, and I was like, oh, this is sort of yeah. It didn't sit well with me, but I came back and it didn't work for a little bit. Probably I tried to do some art projects, and I guess I didn't have the motivation, and people started calling for me to do some other work. So I did the Google project. I did one, yeah, did a few different things. And yeah, I think I sort of like floundered for about 2 years. And then after that, I was like, I need to do something with my life. I'm in my mid 30s. This is like, yeah, it's time. Stop just sort of like going with the flow. And then I sort of, like when you're trying to get somewhere, sometimes it's good just to like try to set your goals quite low because then at least you can move forward in one direction, in some direction. So I just said like, okay, I didn't make apps at Apple. I made like drawings for the most part and a few like prototypes. But I was like, I like music. I like programming. I should make music apps. Like I'll make one app every 3 months and just see what sticks or whatever. And I went on a long walk. I think I'd broken my arm, and so I I don't know why that matters. But I would have gone on a cycle ride, but you can't really ride a bike very well with a broken arm. I went on like a walk for like 8 hours just from my house. And when I came back, I was like, I had like a mission statement, I had a company name, I had all of this stuff like written down. I was like, okay, I know what I'm gonna try and do this thing for a little bit. And then yeah, I think maybe yeah, 3 months later I finished Koala. Yeah.
Wow. One thing you said with Koala, and I love the design of Koala, um, is kind of the story behind it. You said how you want people to not be so precious about their creation and to get on creating. I love that, and I try to aspire to do that in the things I do as well. But I find whenever it comes to programming, I am not that way. I get stuck in the weeds,
Mm.
and sometimes I'll be working on a project for years. So, like whenever I was doing game development, it would always be a couple of years that I was working on something. Do you feel like you apply that principle to building Koala and in the updates that you do with it now?
Yeah, I don't know. I tend to like labor over like really small details. Um, I know that's valuable though. Like some of the details I just sometimes I just overlook stuff. Like I acknowledge that we're a two-person company now, but like we can't dot all the I's and yeah, cross the T's. Like we have to skip over some things and like yeah, cut some corners in order to provide the good fun stuff. But yeah, I would say like it's good to just like yeah, get things out and not be too precious about it for sure. Yeah, like the whole thing of the not being too precious about it. Like I remember it was so like I studied computer science originally, and then I went to go and do industrial design as like a master's, which is like kind of like product design. And you start drawing pictures and they're like, why are you using a pencil? You can rub out a pencil, use a pen, like, commit, just like do it. And I thought, like, that's a really nice metaphor for so many things. And then I've been a musician and like I've tried to do these sort of like longer, more ambitious projects and stuff like that. And like the one thing that really differentiates a lot of amateur musicians from a lot of pro musicians is that they're like prolific and they like a lot of people who are really good at making music can just hammer stuff out, and that's why they're good because they've gone through from beginning to end so many times, um and like not being precious about it, and like if you start getting in the weeds of when you're trying to express yourself, like the expression disappears. It's like mark making, when you have a painter. I really like Francis Bacon, a painter, when I was younger, and he's all about trying to capture that, like, and you see that a lot in art, like trying to capture the sort of mistakes, not mistakes, but like just let it go, Hope
And
that
you feel
answers.
like you can do that as a programmer? I feel like I'm always trying to protect against the downside. And the downside is you release an update, people download it, and something doesn't work. Like maybe you
Yeah,
change something over here and you accidentally broke something on the Android side or whatever it could
yeah,
be.
little being
I
funny.
find that fear, I would say crippling. If anything, it just kind of raises this anxiety in an area where I don't have it so much in the rest of my life. Like I'm not an anxious person, except for whenever it comes to putting out that software. And I don't know if it's because it's turning into a therapy session now. I don't know if it's because I hold like sort of like this high mark for myself, like, oh, this needs to be perfect, which, hello, it's software. It's not going to be perfect. It's almost always there's
Mm,
going to be something broken. And it might not be broken on your device, but on the next person's device, something's not working.
yeah,
And as a developer, it feels like it's your fault. And I know
yeah.
since you put stuff on Android, there's just Android runs on potatoes. So it's going to be a problem on someone's device. But you don't seem like someone who gets too overly upset about it.
Yeah, well,
Or
like I
or
mean,
you hide it well.
yeah,
Which is it?
if you have that like obviously you've got anticipating like what could go wrong is like something you get a little bit from experience, but like if you do release something that's if you feel like it's not ready to go out, obviously you've got to like try and do your best on it. If you can think of anything that can go wrong, but put it out and just be prepared to fix it or try and fix it as soon as you can. And you get better at fixing things, but like it still happens. Like I just released this thing with sample packs for Koala really recently, and like one of the zips with the sample files managed to get corrupted somehow, and like you know I've fixed it. In a day, and I've learned from my mistake. Now I've got like a thing that does a CRC check on the zip to make sure it's fine before it goes up, and it fails the build if it doesn't check it properly. I mean, if it doesn't return it okay on the check, and it's like, yeah, I guess, yeah, you shouldn't like hold you back if you're nervous, like unless you don't if you can't anticipate what might go wrong, I guess you can let your users beta test it. If they've paid like a couple of dollars for the thing, like maybe they won't be so forgiving, but they all appreciate. Like, I've noticed with Koala, people are like very appreciative. Like if the thing crashes and then you fix it the next day, they're like, now I really like it. I guess maybe that's sort of a bit of an oddity in sort of like the vaporware world of apps and abandonware stuff. Like if you acknowledge it and try and work out what's going wrong, and you get better at fixing problems as well, like using, when if you're an Xcode, you have the organizer that like shows you crashes that people are having. You can use a simulator so you can simulate old versions of iOS. I can't, unfortunately, because we use OpenGL, you can't use a simulator. But I've got a library of phones. I've got way more Android. I've got 18 Android phones for testing. And what, like three iOS phones for testing. But like, yeah, so there's like lots of mechanisms to be able to test if something goes wrong. And like obviously, I don't know, if it's a big project, you can have unit testing, like so automated testing. That's like you have to kind of like write your code in a way that makes testing make sense, but that's a really good thing to do. I've also got this thing called the monkey, which basically you you set a flag on the build and it will just like randomly press buttons on the screen. And I think there's even like in Android, in the Google world, there is like a specific tool that does exactly this, that like runs as part of the OS and it just randomly presses buttons on the screen. And I remember once I was at Apple making a prototype and they were considering whether it was ready to show Johnny Ive. And the guy basically just took my app and he went, just to see if it sort of maintained its integrity whilst it was being abused, which I thought was quite funny. But yeah, so it's like I guess there's techniques, but yeah, I think like it's still good not to be precious, but obviously if you're not feeling comfortable and you feel like you can there's something that you really need to do something about, then you should do it. But I guess it's like managing expectations and also yeah, judgment, like if this goes wrong, how wrong can it go and how many people will be pissed off? I've got a thing where if you do something that will piss off 99% of your users, you're in deep trouble. But if it's like something that's, let's say, some obscure MIDI mapping thing that only happens when Koala's running as a plugin, this is like 1% of users. So if it goes wrong, it's going to hurt some people, but like it's worth taking the risk a little bit more, if that makes sense. So it's sort of weighing up how bad your mistake might be. And like, you can have beta testers. I don't know if you use beta testers, but they're very helpful. But they just don't catch everything because they sort of, they will have specific workflows and people can use your apps in all sorts of ways, ways that you weren't intending to use. Like one thing I really love watching, well, I used to watch a lot, is this thing called Against the Clock. I don't know if you've ever seen this on YouTube, but like there was like a YouTube channel where they would have reasonably like famous people, and they would say it would be like a short 10-minute video of, well, they have 10 minutes to make a piece of music in their studio, and they would film it, a few different cameras around or whatever, And you just see, like, I've used Ableton for like forever, and you just watch people using Ableton in such a different way. It looks sometimes like they don't even know how to use Ableton, but actually they just use it in a way that you never expected, and maybe Ableton never expected. And like, I think that's like, yeah, so you'll never catch like every use case. You'll never make enough tests to catch every crash. There's so many variables. There's like infinite number of things that could possibly happen. So you just you just have to make sure you're like in the 99% probably won't crash range.
That's
Where like,
awesome. Yeah, I've given apps to people and sat behind their back and watched them use it before, and you just think like, why are you doing that? Why, why would anyone tap the screen there?
mm,
Um, and like one of there's an Audio Kit Pro video where Herbie Hancock is using like their FM player app, and he's just
mm.
like he's playing it like this, but I just kind of like wince when he's doing it. It's like you're gonna break the app. It can't support that many voices. Um, but yeah, what I really took away from that is it's, they say with Babe Ruth had the most home runs, but he also had the most strikeouts kind of thing. I don't know if that's even true, but what is true about it is it kind of shows that you need to go through the practice of, yes, failing fast, but then the other piece of it is correcting that failure if it's a piece of software. And I
Mm,
think I'm more so I would be like Babe Ruth being like, I don't think I'm going to hit a home run this time. I'm going to sit it out. And so
yeah.
then you just don't even go to bat. So I think that's sort of the invaluable piece is the practice of it, of like
Mm,
accepting that it's not going to be perfect, but realizing that you can fix it and it's not the end of the world if something's wrong. And
yeah.
yeah, man, that lets a lot of the air out of the balloon. So
And
I
like
appreciate that.
evaluate the consequences as well. Like if it does go wrong, like what's gonna happen? Someone who like you uses your app for like 5 minutes every few days is gonna like struggle for a little bit. It's like, yeah, the if you evaluate what you stand to lose, it's quite small. And in terms of like if you were to basically just sit on it and just try and find out every last tiny thing and try and fix it, um, you lose that time. So
Yeah.
someone's beta tested it for you. And I hate to say this, but like I definitely released something slightly prematurely and like within, hours, someone's like, this doesn't work. And I feel bad. And some people are really angry. I've got on my contact form, you have to choose an emoji about like I can't remember what it's labeled, but you have to choose whether it's a smiley face, medium face, sad face, or like a rage face. Or I've added robot as well, just as a wild card, and like and people have to choose between those to set their sort of like oh, it's called anger level, right? Um, just and some people get really really angry, and it's you you just have to take it, fix their problem, be as nice as you can, unless they're rude. And if they're rude, it's like, we got to try and stay civil, um, and yeah, fix it and move on. I really want it so like when you click the the angry emoji, that some calming music starts playing and waves in
Really?
the background. Like, okay, now breathe in.
Yeah.
It's only an app, It will be
Yeah.
fixed very soon. Hmm.
That's awesome. But I think it's rare that that this is the app that you spent so much time on and that you can identify that it's just an app. Because
Mhm.
I think some people that have been working on just one project for this long, they have that sunk cost fallacy. That's probably used in the wrong context, but I'm going to go
Oh,
with
no.
it. But
Yeah,
they've
no.
just spent so much time on it that it feels like it's bigger than an app. Like it's,
Yeah, of
um,
course. And that's just like an empathy thing though. Like it's really important, when you're making any kind of product, whether it's an app or whatever, it's like it's nothing to do with how you feel about it. It's all about, the person who's using its perception. And like most of the time, like an app, almost by definition, they're not even applications. They shorten the word because they're like so throwaway. They don't even. bother to use the whole word application, um some people take it very seriously for sure. And like some people like live in some of these apps, and it really it does sort of hurt them. But like, yeah, it's not this is not like, changing the world or feeding people, and it's like it's like really great for me, but it's like a very small slice of, it's like a microscopic dot of sand, like grain of sand in humanity. So it's like, yeah, it's okay.
Ah, okay,
And
let
there's
me
so
write it
many.
down. Merrick is apathetic. Okay, got it. There we go.
But I would say it's empathy, like like just trying to put yourself, like, obviously it's important to some people it's not important, but yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, especially with your app, because I think your app is a replacement for a DAW for a lot of people. But I think the app wouldn't exist in its current state if you didn't have the philosophy that you do have. And yeah, all the stuff we've discussed. Another thing I'm interested about is you mentioned the forum and like this community that's on Facebook and on YouTube and everything else. How did you kind of see that grow from the initial launch of the app to where it is now? And did it sort of like grow organically, or was this sort of like a way you orchestrated it?
Yeah, it's definitely like massively organic. Like, um, I think at the beginning I was just like very good at sort of responding to everyone and like listening to everyone. I mean, it's like if you're a product designer, the best thing you can do is like listen to people's problems. Obviously, like the worst thing you can do is like take their advice on how to solve the problems, but like listening to like why people are struggling is really important, because it's like you put it in front of Herbie Hancock and he doesn't know how to change the preset. It's not his problem, it's your problem, so it's really really valuable. And so I just listened to everyone and responded to everyone. Now I've managed to like mostly tune it out. I mean, tune out like sort of being like actively engaged. I must have posted on Reddit 2 times today and on Facebook. Like I do definitely still stay engaged, but like try not to get too bogged down in it. But yeah, someone, Remy, this guy, a French guy who lives in Mexico, he wrote to me and said like, I want to make the official Facebook Koala Sampler group. And I said, yeah, sure. So he made it, and yeah, I guess some people sort of got attracted to it. Um, the yeah, the community sort of like mostly sort of brought itself together, like with Remy's help, but it's not been like, you know a marketing exercise or anything like that. There's been not very much marketing, or like never like placed an ad, or like, I mean, I don't. How do you make a community? Yeah, I don't know how it happened. It's just there's someone else set up a Discord. I think the Discord's not like massively used. Only in like the last 2 years, I think the Reddit has been there. Again, someone just set it up, and I was like, I think they emailed me, said, "Can I have some branding and artwork?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, here you go." And I go on there, and I hear stuff like, people having problems, and sometimes I go like, I'm not gonna do like this is like, user problem, or sorry, like someone just not understanding something basic about how to plug your cable into your phone or something like that. But sometimes, I see like really big problems that I need to solve, or just not necessarily problems, just like frustrations. So I engage, and I talk to people, and yeah, a lot of people sort of know me by name in that, which is like, it's good and bad, because then it puts a face to someone who like deleted their song when they've been working on it and Koala crashed or whatever. But yeah, it's good. Um, I don't know how it happened.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you
Right,
weren't kind
man.
of like really loud and vocal about it, like, well, the sampler, come over here,
Yeah,
buy my
yeah, yeah.
app, whereas,
That happens so much. Like, I mean, that's basically the whole internet, is just like people shouting at you. Um, and it's so boring. I don't want to engage in that at
it's
all.
me.
Like,
I shout, and that's my method.
yeah,
There
sure.
was something else. Oh, So now the latest thing, I when I asked you to if you would come onto the call, I was like, if you got anything big going on, then we can do it later. And since I said, and you're like, sure. And since I've said that, you released the vocoder is back and this
Mm.
whole new sample
Mm.
store that you've added to it. Um,
Yeah.
what sort of is this sample store kind of the new big project that you're going to be focusing a lot of time on moving forward?
Well, to be honest, I'm glad to see the back of it because it took quite a long time. It doesn't look like it, but like all the like the actual store bit, even though it's like half broken, it took quite a long time to put together. And I mean, for like for years I've been meaning to do it. It feels a little bit bad because I've sort of got this captive audience of people who make music with samples. So I also put a sample pack store. Like I don't want to say like morally corrupt, but it just felt easy like an easy win basically. Um, and it never sat right with me until I had this idea about the free toys. So basically, the idea is there's only three sample packs now, but when you get a sample pack, you get a free toy like in McDonald's Happy Meal or whatever, and it's like a little synthesizer that you can sample from. So some sort of interesting. There's one that's like a voice synthesizer where you can type in some writing and mess with the formant and pitch and play it on a keyboard. There's one that is a kind of a preset synthesizer, but it's got 1.8 quadrillion presets or something, or 1.08. I can't remember. Like one to the two to the 24 or I don't know, something like that. And then there's another one which is like a dub siren because it's for a dub sample pack. Um, and I thought, and they actually took I think they took like each like a week or two, or maybe even longer to make. And it makes me feel less guilty about, this sort of like make a sample pack and it's easy to sell because I can sell to all these people. Um, uh, but yeah, really, I hope I get to make some more of these free toys. Like some people just want to buy the free, they don't care about the sample packs. So my feeling with samplers in general is like I want people to go out and find their samples because that's the spirit of sampling is go and find your samples. Like not to, have these giant sample libraries, your splice and all this sort of stuff and um just fill your thing with like pre-made stuff. Like the joy of it and the sort of like the magic of it is like you find some sort of snippet from somewhere, and then you basically make your collage of music around these like interesting found sounds or these pieces of snippets of music that you found. Yeah, so I've done it now, and it's not like the new thing. It's a direction, and I think it's like something that can run in parallel with all the other things. There's about 14 different directions we're going in at the moment. Um, but yeah, I think we're gonna do some more, I think. And I've got some ideas. I've had some ideas suggested for like more free toys. I've got some like good ideas already, some feedback about what people liked and didn't like about the sample packs. And I'm gonna make a survey and just find out what didn't you like? What's bad? Is there like not enough samples? The kind of samples? And I know like everyone's got their different opinions, but I wonder if there's a direction that everyone's sort of pointing in. And if I can make like better content for people, I'll do it. And it's fun to get other people involved. Like I didn't make any of the sample packs. One of them was like a bit involved in like like a sort of feedback loop. But yeah, basically, I just do everything. Well, me and Paul, the other guy who works with me, and it's just really good to like have commission some stuff rather than just do every last, you know, I do all the YouTube videos, all the tech support, all the most of the programming, all of the design. It's nice to work with some other people on stuff. So hopefully, I would like to work a bit more with some people to make more sample packs, but not like it's just not going to turn into like a big, sample pack business or whatever. I don't know if I'm interested in doing that.
Hmm.
Um,
Are the sample packs stored on your an external server?
so at the moment they're stored on Apple and Google. servers. So they're like, what's it called in Apple? It's called
On-demand resources.
on-demand resources. Yeah. So I think Google's got a slightly different name for it, like display asset delivery, something. I don't know. But yeah, so you can have up to about 2 GB, including your app. You can upload to Apple, and the sample packs they're FLAC, so lossless FLAC. So they're quite small. They're like 10-20 MB big. So there's the whole thing. We're up to 250 MB. So we still got 1.75 gigs of space before we'd have to start paying for any kind of you know S3 storage or like, I mean, it's not just paying for it, it's like managing it as well, making sure like, something else doesn't go wrong. Like it's really nice with the App Store and the Play Store. You just upload it to them and they take care of it. The server is fast as well, like the download's quite fast. It gets locally cached and but what? I don't know all the details. All anecdotally, it seems really fast. I also use it for you can do like stem splitting in Koala, but you don't initially, Koala doesn't include the model, and you download the model after you've installed if you want it. It's like 150 megabytes. So that comes that uses the same system.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. I thought with on-demand resources, the system could dump that at any point in time, like
Oh,
if you're getting low
yeah.
on storage or something.
So all you do, you just copy it somewhere and then
Ah, so you
yeah.
you download it, then you put it in some persistent storage,
Yeah.
and then you get rid of it after that.
Like I had the same problem. I was like, yeah, like people are just going to complain about it getting deleted. How does that work? If it just, like if you run out of storage, the OS just nukes it. Same on iOS and Android. But yeah, like obviously it can't do that if you just copy it to a place. Like I can't remember exactly what it's called, but there's a folder that's accessible between your standalone and your AUV3
Yeah.
that like nothing can touch basically.
Yeah,
When
with
you
your like
uninstall.
within your app groups of the file manager,
Yeah,
you can put it
yeah,
there. Ah,
exactly.
yeah, okay, that just cracks the code for me. That that
Yeah.
makes
Yeah,
perfect
so it's
sense.
like one line of code and it fixes that problem completely. Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
There's like
think
less things to go wrong basically with like without like if you I don't know if we'd ever get to 2 GB, but if we did, we'd have to look elsewhere. Or if we wanted to go on other platforms or something like that. If we want to do like, I don't believe it's available for like Mac. So if we were ever to do like a Mac plugin, um, you wouldn't be able to access it there. But that's just yeah, problem for a different day. So
with yeah, and people don't like for the binary size to be too large, so it's probably good that
yeah,
you can do them later.
yeah. I mean, I
Um,
don't like you want to start using it straight away. So
right.
it's
So how much does the FLAC, do you start with WAV files and then you wrap them or export them as a FLAC file?
yeah, like there's I've just got like I have like a kind of source folder that has all the sort of original WAV files, and then there's I don't know if it's a Bash script or a Python script, I can't remember, but it'll run it through like the official FLAC encoder, and it does like lossless encoding, and then it also does this thing that I haven't used it yet, but it will also generate like a waveform preview. And they're in the sample packs. They just don't. I wanted it so the icons of each like audio file would you'd be able to see the wave file on it, like
Hmm.
the actual waveform. But like I haven't got there yet. Um,
Cool.
so yeah, so it does a few things, and I wanted it to like write more metadata and stuff like that. And there's quite a lot of metadata that is actually stored in the sample packs. It's just there's no way to access it at the moment. But yeah, in the future, it's in like I mean, the one thing we would have to do is like make it so if a user loads a sample, you could have like pitch detection or chord detection, which is like it's not like a really easy thing to do. So I kind of don't want to like start having like Koala having like a kind of a key awareness until I've got like a robust pitch detection, and it's like it's hard. So
Mm.
it's So it's kind of boring. And like also, this is another thing about being precious about music is like I don't want people to go like, oh, I started in D minor, so I've got to only find D minor samples, or I've got to tune my samples so it's in D minor. And it's like already you're just like losing the magic of like, well, what if you take like a D minor and a G major? It's they work together. It might happen by accident, Kind of want to encourage that, using your ears rather than your brain or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, there's so many like problems you have to solve with that because I mean you could just have the samples be there along with like some JSON data that's going to tell you what the how many cents detuned it is and where the root node is and everything like that. I use this sampler inside an audio kit that's called Done Sampler, and it uses like a wave packing thing. So these
Hmm.
files are like .wv, but
Oh,
it's
Webpack.
amazing
Yeah.
that they still sound like a regular wave file, but they're compressed to like 10% or less than the full file size.
Yeah, so that Webpack is really similar to FLAC. And I think even when I started making not like the sample packs, but the built-in samples, they were originally in Webpack, but then FLAC's just like a bit more widely used. I think they're both really quite similar in terms of like compression size. Yeah, it's really impressive that how small they can make files, depending on the file, basically.
So if you were to make free sample packs in addition, would you serve those through the App Store as well, do you think? Or would you try and store those ones on your server and then give them out?
I think I would just try and avoid running my own server for as much as possible, just because of the headache of it if it doesn't work or if some, if there's like a bug in Koala or yeah, something like that, it's sort of a bit more guaranteed with the sort of like if it stays inside the ecosystem. And we've got it set up like that. But if we went over the 2 gigs, yeah, maybe we would move everything to the same thing. But it's like a world that I have no expertise in, like, you know, um all that sort of like modern web stuff, like, and using tokens to download things and stuff like that. Um, yeah, sounds also a little bit boring, but yeah, maybe we'll have to do it at some point, but we're safe for probably quite a while.
Yeah. I use Azure for backend stuff and it's pretty cheap. I just like people just get like a JSON files from mine though. So it's not like audio, so it's not large, so that wouldn't be it probably
Mm,
could get costly. But I would think to start out, I don't know how much traffic you would generate right off, but might even be able to just like dump the files into your shared hosting and just have
yeah,
people downloading it from there. That's the free option that
yeah.
you're already paying for.
I mean, like, I think it's quantifiable because you can basically say like, well, like, how likely if you buy a sample pack, how many times are you going to download it on average? Less than three, probably, I would say.
Hmm.
Like, on average, like some people might download it 100 times. A lot of people would download it just once. So let's say three. Like, how much does 3 downloads cost? And then how much does the sample pack cost? And then you'd be like,
Yeah.
okay, probably safe, unless everyone decides to like
Well, I guess it'd
download them
become an
every single
issue.
time.
It might become an issue when you have like free sample packs because those free sample packs are intended to be sort of your loss leader. People are coming
Yeah,
back into Koala just because, and there's like, what new sample packs are here? And I'm sure there's some
yeah,
people that will only get the free ones, but then there are other people that will get the free ones and then be like, oh, you know what? I do really want uh,
yeah. I guess if I
Nervous
get in
Cook's
trouble,
drum pack, which I don't know if that's coming, but I hope that one comes out. That's my
Mhm.
hope.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, yeah. Maybe I'll have a chat. But the I guess Koala is paid, even the sort of base version, so you can still do a bit
Yeah.
of maths around that. But yeah, like and but then I guess the thing is you can always sort of like make a budget for it and like turn it off. Like with the even the commissioning of the sample packs, I'm like, am I gonna make the money back from the commission? But like you sort of yeah, I sort of I made a budget. I decided I was going to spend this much money on making the sample packs. So I know when I've made enough to pay the cost of having them done, and a bit more, maybe that's when I'll start, or maybe before that, I'll start doing more sample packs. And I guess that's just like I'm like quite risk averse in that sense. I'm not risk averse about putting out code with bugs, but financially, I'm like, yeah, well, I've got an employee to pay and like family to feed and stuff like that. But it's yeah, I think there's ways of just like thinking about it logically to put yourself in a reasonably safe position, I think. And there's lots of options for storage as well. And like I guess that's one thing that's nice about the storage is as long as you're going through some sort of proxy layer, you can always change the backend,
Hmm.
move providers or whatever. Um, so I think yeah, some of that stuff there's I mean we've got HTTP download built into it that I use for testing. So there's already some sort of mechanism for it, but um,
Yeah, I guess the downside to using apples is one, if you want to have new packs, likely you have to update the app, like push an updated version.
I
Um,
update it so much.
I know, that's right. With me, I update apps whenever my back is against the wall and they're like, "Hey, we're going to take this off the store unless you do something." And then
Yeah,
even at that point, it's like it compiles. Okay, we're good.
yeah. I've done it like 4 times in the last week or something.
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah, I know that. I think that was like talking to Paul. He's like the guy developer who works with me. He used to work at Novation and he worked a lot on the sort of Amplify stuff, like Launchpad and stuff. And that the first thing he said was like, "What if you want to update a sample pack without updating the app?" I'm like, "Nah, like I'll update the app." And all the free toys go in the binary, so you have
that's right.
like so it would be. I think that's like a kind of like over engineering situation of like I I wouldn't need to um it's sort of like trying to prepare a system for like all eventualities and you like never use those eventualities. It's just like quite a long headache. So I think yeah. I mean yeah, like we might move to it one day.
Very cool. Yeah. I don't want to sell you on the idea. I've been looking at implementing something like that, like a store in an app I've been working on. And I've been looking at Decent Sampler as an example.
Mm.
Decent Sampler has their own store, but what's really driving it are David Hilowitz's YouTube videos and the free sound pack. So people will go watch a video, they want to get the free sound pack, and hopefully
Mm.
while they're there, they're also going to go pick up a paid sound pack, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But he has his own store, so like if you buy it, you're buying it through him and his own servers, and then it's validated. If you sign in on desktop, then you can get the stuff there too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean that might also be the sort of driver of why I might end up in that situation if we went to like other platforms. Like if it was like, Windows VST or whatever.
Yeah,
Maybe we'd go down that route. And like consolidating it, I know it's gonna be like not so fun. Like you can't really sort of easily sort of validate a purchase. Someone buys it on iOS and then they want to use it in Windows. It's like they should be able to do it. Like that's only fair because they paid for it. But like, how do you? I mean, already I've got this problem where people are writing to me saying like, "Well, I bought your sample pack on iOS, but I like my phone is an Android phone, uh, uh, and I just have to say like, well, Apple and Google don't have an agreement in place to share purchases. That's the way it is, and it's like I would feel more bad if they cost $50, but they cost $3. So
all
it's
right.
not, it's not terrible. I mean, if you love it so much, then you're gonna be okay with paying for it. If you're not okay paying for it, then don't pay for it. or,
Yeah,
or pirate it. You've got it on one. You can just export the samples somehow.
yeah.
Like
I think
uh,
it's a super generous deal to have like the sounds and a toy included for
mm,
less than $5. You said it's like a McDonald's toy,
yeah.
only it's less than a McDonald's Happy Meal for the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
it's just to guarantee that you can't like, well, less reasons to be disappointed. Because like with the sample pack, I just imagine like, what if I, I bought like one sample pack to see what a sample pack is like. Um, and but I'm not a person who buys sample packs. But like, I can just imagine you buy a sample pack and it's like, what am I gonna do? I don't like any of these samples. I thought it was gonna be good, but maybe it's not. But then at least if you get the free toy, like something, I know free toy is meant to make your child drag you to McDonald's. Like I think that's the it's that sort of mechanism. Whereas this is like it was really like the consolation prize for if you don't like it. But it turns out it's actually the McDonald's effect of people just want the toy. It's like they don't want to eat the Kinder Egg. They don't want to eat the chocolate. They just want the toy.
Right, right. Yeah, I
Which is
think
cool. And it's a nice outlet for me because I really enjoy I can just like I can do I've got all these tiny experiments of like, silly like modal synthesis or like there's one called Valis, the preset synthesizer. It was based on like buying a OP1, playing with it and think, the drum machine thing's quite cool. It uses like cross synthesis, which I didn't really know about. And then I was like, yeah, but I can't really afford this. So I sent it back. But after playing with it, and I was like, yeah, cool, I'm gonna make a preset synthesizer. And then I made like it was actually a web audio synthesizer that I made. I don't think I sort of published it or made it well known, but that's where it started. But yeah, I've got loads of these little ideas, and it's just a little way of me to sort of have a side creative outlet. Because doing anything in Koala, it's like you're going to change people's workflows, or if you do anything big, then it's going to create lots of side effects and bugs and stuff like that. Whereas these are like little standalone things that I can just enjoy doing, and people can enjoy, quirky, cartoony things that make sounds. So a bit of variety.
yeah. I wonder about having to update those over time, if that is going to become sort of a problem, or if it's one of these things where, like, now that you've set the standard of these sample packs are going to have a toy included, it makes it harder to then put out lots of sample packs quickly.
I think
But I don't know. Maybe it doesn't need to be a prerequisite of every single sample pack that comes
yeah,
out.
I can make a sample pack cheaper and not have a free toy. But I think also it's a kind of a good rate limiter because I don't want to just like, like I said, I could just start like, paying people to make sample packs and like shelling out sample packs. And I don't want Koala to just turn into like a thing, like a shell for like this Koala pack thing or whatever. I mean, sample pack thing. Um, so it's sort of a good way to sort of keep me honest and like even if I get people in to help me make sample packs these things are a labor like they're not like massively straightforward. Like I spent eight with the voice synthesizer. Yeah, well, all of them. I spent a lot of time with all of them. So and so yeah, it sucks that if I want to do three more sample packs, I'm gonna have to spend like a month or so trying to come up with some ideas for some more free toys and programming them. Um, but it's sort of good as well, like because it's sort of it's good vibes and like I really like this idea of like mm, when I was younger, my dad came back from China and he had this Game Boy game that he bought, like in a street market. It was like a cartridge, and you could press this button on the back, and every time you press it, it started a new game, like pirate cartridge with like 200 games in it or whatever. And I love this like, wow, what's this one? What's that one? What's this one? And like for ages I wanted to do this other thing called like the MIDI entertainment system, which would be like lots of different fun like they have it a little bit in the OP1. There's like a tombola thing where it sort of just generates random MIDI notes depending on when you're turning control. Just having like loads of different ways of like, just interesting fun toys that help you start something in music or just give you a bit of variety. Yeah.
I think that's awesome. I think you're like app dev Willy Wonka. That's what I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for. Yeah.
So you talk about how you don't want people to just use the same presets all the time. But I feel like that's what I do right now with the samples is like if I'm starting up a track, the drums are either going to be the built-in drums that come with Koala or I'm going to be spitting into the microphone. Usually spitting. But I like using the built-in one. So I know, and that's a reason that I think if I'm creating music, my go-to right now is still going to be going to Logic on my computer. You know, as much as I do still enjoy making music on mobile and I do use Koala for it, but Koala is almost, it's a different thing. It's more about just making something quick. It's about that idea that they used to have what mobile apps were supposed to be, where you do something really quickly, you get on the subway, you put it in your pocket and you take it back out and then you keep doing stuff, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm making a finished track, then I'm still most comfortable in Logic. But even in Logic, I'm not using my own samples. I'm using like the Lindrum that's inside of there,
Yeah.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah.
another awesome partnership. Just putting that out there, you know, the Lindrum
Already
pack
there.
inside of Koala.
Mm, mm,
Um, but yeah, so I do think that there's, while it's not the way that you would create it, and it's also not the way that Qual is necessarily intended, I think there's a good more than 50% of users who are going to, it's the same people
mm.
that download a synth app. Yes, they can use all the subtractive synthesis stuff to make their own presets, but instead, you want to play the presets that are already made for you, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel that way about samples. Like if I want to make a lo-fi beat, it's going to start with like, let me find some lo-fi drums, as opposed to let me find some drums. Now I'm going to put a low pass filter on it. Now I need to find a way to add some tape noise and everything else. So
Mm. This is really good. Thank you. This is like a great user interview. Like this is really interesting. Like, I mean, it sort of just suggests to me that there should be some more free stuff in Koala if a lot of people are starting like that. Because I have like observed like a lot of, I mean, there's a lot of, people making lo-fi hip hop with Koala and stuff, but then there's a lot of people making like, yeah, mouth noises to make music. Like, it's really popular. Maybe it's just because there's like the friction of like, bringing your own samples in. Um, and the ones built in, it's nice that there's free ones. They're not like, they're not great. And it could be that there could be some free ones for sure. I mean, some more free ones. I think there's like 250 free in there. But yeah, I could do some more. That'd be a nice
yeah.
thing.
Well, and I think they could even be as separate downloads inside of that, your sample pack
Yeah,
store,
yeah, like you
because that's
said,
going to
yeah.
get foot traffic of just at least people getting used to going to that section of the app.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Like, yeah, I mean, I think that I've seen that like so much, like so many companies have sort of free offerings to just get the person into the door, and like, I guess that wouldn't necessarily be my main goal. If it was, I would have like there would be like a massive store button in the middle of Koala. Like, you have to go digging for it. But yeah, like maybe yeah, that would be nice to do a few. I don't want to like have loads and loads like I don't want to have like a huge catalog of sample packs. So maybe there's just a couple that get updated or something.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, man, we are getting near the time, but I want to finish up with just hearing sort of what, for what you can share, what are kind of your future plans for Koala now? And I also know you've mentioned that you wanted to work on other apps in the future. Are those now being rolled into Koala, or are those still your someday maybe projects?
Yeah, I think basically all the side projects have been definitely sidelined. And like one way I've sort of it's like 6 years or something like that Koala's been going. Like I sort of like half decided that anything that I want to make, any other music app, I'll just put it into Koala. It's just easier. Like everyone's got Koala, they've paid for it already. I can just like just make that better, and like put my effort there. So I think that that's the case. And there's I don't want to say what the things are, but like there are things that are like missing in Koala that I'm going to add, or like I've programmed a lot of things already that just aren't in a good shape visually for people. So there's a lot of the sort of um, the bottleneck at the moment is UI design, and just trying to make a designs for stuff that doesn't ruin the feel and the flow of Koala. Like there's loads of functionality that's just so easy to do, but just how does the person use it? And that's the real challenge. And I think that's the challenge with like mobile app software making in general. Is like the main problem is the screen is so small. Like I know people have iPads, but I want to cater for the phone user as well. So there's some like, if I wanted to have like song recording or automation or whatever it is, it's like I can program it easy. I've programmed most of those before, but how do you use it in a way that doesn't really clang and sort of ruin everything and actually like take away from other sort of core bits of the program? And like, yeah, I've also I can't say what it is, and it's not what you're thinking, but I've started doing like a side hardware project that goes quite nicely along with Koala. It's not a MIDI controller, but it's quite yeah. That's all I'm gonna say about it. I'm sorry.
But is this going to be an Elf Audio like physical product that's being released?
So I've only made like a very basic prototype, so it's like 95% not going to happen. But I'm very
Okay.
excited about it, and it's quite silly, but it's really cool.
All right. Well, we will definitely keep our eye out for that. Well,
Yeah,
Merrick, thank you so much for your time, man. It's great finally getting to meet you almost in
yeah,
person, meet you on screen.
yeah. No, it's great. It's great to talk. Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. Like, yeah, it's been great, and also thanks for like helping me solve some problems. I think yeah, it's been interesting like talking through these things.
Oh, well, cool, man. Yeah, I appreciate it too. I especially the part about that I was missing about trying to go through the practice of releasing things and living through it as opposed to just living in the fear. I'm going to cut that part so people don't know I live in fear, but
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, it's been really helpful. Yeah, yeah. I had a good chat.